YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. So I've got a story for you. Excuse the weird angle of the camera, but it's what I can do for the moment. But, so, as you know, hopefully you're subscribing and following the videos, because I often tend to refer to older videos. It's an easy way to find them. In any case, as you may or may not know, I was really knocked out by the orange PPC 108. Little tiny speaker cabinet with a voice of the world speaker. I thought, well, that's pretty darn cool. Alright, the sound is really great and everything. So I went ahead and got a pair of PPC 112s, right? Basically an orange cabinet, closed back cabinet with a 12-inch speaker. And instead of a voice of the world speaker, they put in a vintage 30 speaker, a Celestion vintage 30. Quite an expensive and popular speaker. Right? And you can look at the cabinet here. Okay, here's the PPC 112. It's quite a large cabinet for being just a single 12. It's quite wide. There you go. Very nice. And at the time, I was using the PPC 108. So I was using these kind of small wattage amp heads and things. And quite frankly, was quite disappointed in the orange cabinet. I was like, I don't see what the big deal is. I mean, it freaking sounds like that PPC 108. Except it's much bigger. Right? And I thought, well, that's kind of crappy, really. To make it sound like a tiny speaker. That's like $100 instead of a cabinet that I've seen them go for about $385. And that was used. So they're very expensive. Cabinet. I was really disappointed. I was like, man, that's sad. Right? So I was thinking of selling them, just get rid of them, I mean, what's the point? Well, I figured out what the point was when I discovered what the problem was. And as it turns out, this is a very loud cabinet, and it requires a certain amount of power that these little mini heads just weren't cutting. So, just out of curiosity, I hooked up my Fender Super Champ X2 head, one of my favorites, by the way. Very inexpensive Fender tube head. In fact, I think the entire amp has like 2 tubes. Ha! Right? So I was on the single channel, and man, all of a sudden the orange cabinet came alive. I guess it had enough power, and you can hear it here. So, wow, it's like this huge sound, right? I mean, that's a big sound right there, very loud, full, solid. Wow, that's awesome. Great sound, and coming from the Super Champ X2 head, which is only 15 watts. However, before that I was using 5-watt amp heads, and man, they just didn't cut it. They didn't bring the orange cabinet alive, you know. It sounded more like the PPC 108, kind of a small sound, and I was like, what is this? You know, now I understand how cool the PPC 112 cabinet is with the vintage 30. Now, granted, on the back though, it still has the orange signature plastic input jacks, which are pure crap. I mean, every time the little PPC 108, which has the same jacks, or similar jacks anyway, plastic, you know, if it would get knocked over and things, the little plastic jack would just break, rendering the cabinet useless, unable to play it. Well, it's the same kind of deal on the orange cabinets. And I have 2 of them, and one of them I've already replaced the input jack with a metal jack, and have had no issues. And because I know that the plastic jacks are prone to breaking, the other one, which has the plastic jacks, has really been babied. You know, I've been trying to be very careful with it. Now, as far as the sound goes, you know, I really like it. It's very powerful sound. So anyway, there's the vintage 30. Now, here's the thing. I remember I played it yesterday after finding out, you know, that it just needed more power to really come alive and more volume. You know. Now here's the thing. One of my favorite speakers, right, is the Eminence Cannabis Rex. It's a 50-watt 8-ohm speaker, whereas I believe the vintage 30 is an 80-watt 8-ohm speaker, I believe. right? The Cannabis Rex, though, is known for its really smooth sound. So I experimented listening to both and trying to make up my mind whether I want to keep the vintage 30 in the orange cabinets or maybe pull them, sell them off, and get Cannabis Rex speakers. And the cannabis part of the name is in reference to its hemp cone. Okay, it's kind of it does have a kind of a greenish look to it. I'm just saying. But I don't think you'd want to smoke it. You know, it's not that kind of cannabis. So the Eminence Cannabis Rex speaker is just known for a really smooth tone. Right? And in fact, I have a pair of seismic audio cabinets that I had purchased, and I put Cannabis Rex speakers in them. And so what we're going to do here is, well, let's compare them and see if the vintage 30, which is an expensive speaker, I mean, used I could probably get, probably for the pair of them at least, probably in the $200 range. And $200 should be enough to, or at least around there, to get you two Cannabis Rex speakers. You know, or maybe just keep the vintage 30 speakers, which I think sound really great. You know, as much as the Cannabis Rex speaker. In fact, from what I recall, they're very similar in a way. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to play something, you know, just and to compare them, the vintage 30. Okay, so that's the vintage 30 through the orange cabinets, alright? And now let's try the seismic audio cabinets with the Cannabis Rex speakers, using the same amp, the Fender Super Champ X2. Now here you go, here's the Cannabis Rex in the seismic audio cabinet. And unlike the orange, which is a closed back cabinet, the seismic audio is an open back cabinet. So here we go. here's the difference between the two speakers. And I find that the cannabis rest, surprisingly, is a little brighter. So is there a big difference or not? Quite frankly, to my ears anyway, I kind of like them both. Well, I may even like the Vintage 30 in the orange cabinet a little more even than the seismic audio, which is fine, but I think it's a little brighter, really. And I personally like a darker sound. Now, of course, you can mess with the amp settings, turning down the treble and those kinds of things. But sound-wise, they're pretty similar, I think. Now, I'll be curious to listen back to this video and hear the differences. Not much difference, though I think the Cannabis Rex can get very loud, but I think inherently the V30 just has this loudness to it, even played softly. And the V30 is a little more expensive than the Cannabis Rex. I mean, as I recall, you could get them for about $79 or $99 for a Cannabis Rex, a 12-inch speaker. I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know what the prices are today. But I do know that the V30 at the time, anyway, was closer to about $140, right? So a little more expensive. I mean, here, I can do this. Since it's right in front of me. Okay. I've turned down the treble. Now, let's see what we get with this. Now, this is a Cannabis Rex again. So definitely turning down the treble makes it a very sweet sounding speaker. Alright, let's try time. Okay, now again, here's the orange cabinets with the V30s. And we'll try this again. Okay, so there we go. So, to be quite honest, while I love the power of the vintage 30, I kind of like the cannabis Rex a little better just because it's so smooth. You know, whereas I find the vintage 30 to be not quite as smooth. I don't know, tell me what you think, and I'll listen back to this video and compare further before making a decision. And the decision would be to pull the vintage 30 speakers, sell them, and replace them with cannabis Rex speakers. Not sure yet. So it remains to be seen. By the way, I have to admit, I'm very pleased with the Fender Super Champ X2, which really brought the orange cabinet to life, if you like. Just because it's a bit more powerful than the 5-watt tube amps. Alright, very good. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.